Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Of course, nerdtoknowmedia and the True Penny Show. My name is Darragh O'Connor, and thank you for joining us, guys. We really do appreciate it. We have a jam-packed show this week, so if you're in the chat, please do comment. We have a lot to talk about. We have AEW's All Out. We have CM Punk burning down AEW, and we also have Clash of the Castle. But not only that, I'm not alone this week. I'm joined by the one, the only, the undefeated 1-0, Mr. Martin Hardy. Martin, how are you, sir?
Grand. I'm starting to think that I'm not going to get this one-on-one fight with Punk.
Well, you might now. He looks like he's going to be unemployed, so...
Well, that's the other thing is he more dangerous in the ring or more dangerous with a mic in his hand?
Well, he did warn us. That's the thing. But we're going to get into that, and we're not going to bury the lead because, holy heck, you know what's weird, right? We were sitting there going, oh, the show will be fine this week. And then on Sunday night, the whole place goes crazy. So we are going to get into that. But, Martin, we're not alone. We have the return of the three-man booth. Welcome, Mr. Dave Stevens. Dave, how are you, sir?
Oh, it's great to be back on the only wrestling show made by people that actually like wrestling.
It's a
welcoming place to be back, and man, have I missed you guys. So strap in, because we're not burying the lead. We're we're digging it up, we're rolling it around, and we're throwing it back in its grave.
We kind of have to at this point because it's just so crazy. Like I genuinely didn't think that we would be sitting here talking about AEW doing this. Like, you know, the joke was that they're like WCW, and then me and Martin go and cover the entire like history of WCW as it's collapsing, and then literally a week later, like not even a week later, like 2 days later, we start seeing it happening in free fall. It's like fast forward, and you're like, oh my god, here we go. And it's funny because I remember one of my friends reached out to me and she goes, oh, what do you think of AEW? I'm like, I have some concern. She goes, what do you mean? I'm like, I've seen this happen before, and then it all just plays out. And I feel bad for you, Martin. I really do. As the AEW fan in this, you know, I shouldn't take as much pleasure in this as I do, but I do.
Well, I think part of it is that, like, you've seen it all before. We've been watching the WCW stuff, but Tony Khan is like a wrestling historian. Like, he's seen this all before. And the only kind of bright spot, apart from the pay-per-view itself, I thought the pay-per-view was pretty good. Definitely not one of their best.
No.
But the only bright spot of it was that this week's Dynamite
was very
actually kind of felt like... Do you remember when like loads of the big names jumped from WWF to WCW? And WWF had to kind of go, all right, well, look, we've lost these big names. Let's go and push some of the younger guys now. Let's go and make some new talent. And, you know, we ended up with Stone Cold and The Rock and Mick Foley and all that. This week's Dynamite kind of felt like that to me. You know, much more of a focus on the younger guys or the guys who maybe aren't established stars yet.
Now, you see, that's a very generous way to see it. The way I saw it was, no, to be fair, you're not wrong. But when I was watching it and it started off, there are some criticisms. Dynamite isn't really what we're going to talk about, but I do. Since you brought it up, the fact that the show started off with Tony Khan not addressing why he's vacating the titles, just doing it. It's like you have to kind of tell the casuals why the world champion isn't here and where the trios champion are gone. You know, I'm like, come on, that's a massive oversight. But but you know who I felt really sorry for? Tony Schiavone. The PTSD flashbacks he probably had, where he's like, oh no, they're randomly vacating the titles again. I've seen this before. I was expecting Vince Russo to walk out now and hug Eric Bischoff, and I mean,
that would make me so happy if that happened. But to Martin's point, though, if we're going to highlight something positive, what they did with the Ring of Honor Pure title at the end of Dynamite this week, I mean, it really is trying to elevate stars. They're trying to make Rampage actually have some better talent on it. We'll see how that goes. It's airing in a couple hours from when we're recording this, but you know, we'll see. Apparently it's Jericho, Moxley, and Bryan who are helming things over there, excuse the pun, at the moment. So I mean, you having WWE run it, it's great. What else would you expect from TNA 2.5?
Look, you know, and like again, I, you know, it's very easy to throw the TNA thing. Last week's show was very TNA-ish, but I don't know. Let's get into it, right? Because again, from what I've seen with the fallout with this, Moxley and Daniel Bryan, that's who should have been in your main. They should have been your main guys anyway. You know, I like the Elite, but you don't trust them, right? Obviously, to run a company. Like, Punk wasn't wrong, but also Punk seems to just be toxic everywhere he goes, like, genuinely, you know. So building your company around those 4 guys was probably a bad idea. Moving to someone more reliable like D. Bryan and Mox absolutely makes way more sense. And I think maybe Tony Khan had a wake up call where he's like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this, you know. But look, guys, let's get into this, right? So again, if you're in the chat, folks, please do keep the comments clean, but, you know, chat in, because this is going on the radio. And right, so let's start with this, right? So last week we talked about CM Punk losing the title, which was weird, and then he got possibly being injured. Then he got a rematch at All Out. The match we'll get into in the next part of the show, but that wasn't where, because I wasn't watching the show. Martin, you were watching the show live, weren't you?
I watched it live, yeah, and I watched sat up and watched the media scrum live as well.
So
despite the fact that my eyes were hanging out of my head by that stage.
So I totally forgot about the show, right? Because I was just like, yeah, I'll watch it whenever, right? So, but I came back. I think I was at a gig or something. I don't really remember what I did on Sunday night, which means it was a good weekend. I came back and I was like, oh yeah, that thing's on. I'll watch it whenever. Then my phone exploded because it just Twitter went mad. I'm like, what's going on? And I tune into it and I'm like, this is the strangest thing I've ever seen. And for anyone who didn't see it, CM Punk, like the stream I was watching, it wasn't the official stream. There were like 2 or 3 different streams of it, right? So I was watching a stream where he was talking. And he was talking to one of the reporters there, and he just started going off on him about Colt Cabana. If anyone doesn't know,
I watched this back a couple of times. Nobody raised.
No.
I thought I must have missed it that he was asked a question.
No, he just started talking. He just mentioned to him, yeah.
Well, I could kind of understand it at first, because I was thinking, oh, he's just won the title and big night in his hometown, and he's come back to do a media scrum, and the first question is this Colt Cabana stuff again. But no, he just brought it up.
What happened was he sat down and he was like, I can't remember the guy's name, Nick something. He was like, hey, are you friends with Scott Coulson? Scott Coulson is the real name of Colt Cabana. And then it descended from there, and that's how it opened. Now, here's the thing. These media scrums, I find them quite distasteful, because it's literally just a love fest for Tony Khan, which, I mean, sometimes justified, sometimes not, right? And there can be some good stuff in it. So I don't really watch them because I think they're kind of self-indulgent, right? But I never, in a million years, I never thought this would happen, right? So Punk comes out and he buries everybody.
But I think we need to heighten what Martin said there, because I think that's really important. It's
Go on.
Nobody asked him about Scotty or Colt Cabana, or it never came up.
No,
he decided to bring it up and then go on this whole rant about the whole thing. Now, it is the world of professional wrestling, and as Punk alluded to, they're not really journalists. They're all kind of have ins with certain wrestlers. So it seemed like he took the question he was asked, that I really want to quote verbatim, but I can't remember what it was right now, but it didn't mention anything like that. And so Punk was immediately like, oh, like, there's like, oh, you're friends with him? Like, you should disclose that when you ask a question. Like, I don't want to deal with that here. But again,
no one asked the question.
All these assumptions. Yeah.
No one asked the question. He just started.
Like, no, I'm not friends with him, but I guess you have to put yourself in the professional wrestling mindset of he sees these same people at every show. You know, I think Meltzer was there, and he would address him by name.
Meltzer was, like, and also and Brian Alvarez as well, and he also got really upset with Brian Alvarez. Which again, folks, anything we're talking about, it might sound crazy, but it's not. You can actually find them talking about it. Like, I watched The Observer, I think you guys do as well, and a lot of this show this week has been them talking about what happened at the scrum and giving context to what's going on. So we have What Culture up on the screen. They also have done a pretty good job talking about it. The same with stuff from, a lot of stuff broke from Fightful as well. So look, for anyone who didn't see it, again, as the lad said, Punk came out, went on this rant about Colt Cabana. He believes someone leaked information that was his fault that Colt Cabana was moved from AEW to Ring of Honor, right? And then it descended from there. He believes that the books leaked the information. He went off on the books, Kenny Omega, because they're the VPs of the company. And then he went off on Hangman Adam Page as well. And the weird part was Tony Khan sat there the whole time with a face on him that can only be described as a deer in headlights, right?
Yes.
Yes. You're just sitting there going, again, this is what I was like, is this a work? Because there's no way he should be letting him say this, because it's like, one, he's swearing up a storm as well, like stuff we can't even repeat on the radio because, excuse me, we'll be kicked off, right? He goes full bore effing and blinding out of him like you wouldn't believe. And then you're like, okay, that was weird. He leaves. The best part of the whole thing is that he's eating muffins the entire time. Wonderful. That's my favorite part. He's just sitting there eating a big bag of muffins. Like, this is so crazy. Sorry, go on.
So at this stage, like, this is obviously all incendiary stuff, but at this stage he gets up, he walks off, and I'm fully convinced that this is a work. I'm like, oh, they must have gotten him and Cabana together. Right. Like, they've worked it out, and now they're going to do some sort of program together. It's like, oh, that'll be cool. That'll, have a load of heat to it.
I was thinking that.
He's setting up, feuds for the next 6 months. Like I say, Hangman, the Buck. He's gonna. To me, it looked like he was setting up like a megalomaniacal heel champion character.
So a lot of copium here.
Well, no, but this is all before we heard what happened next.
Yeah. So
at this stage, I think this is brilliant. I'm like, oh my god, that was class.
And at this point, I'm like, oh my god, he's just like burned the company down, right? So I mean, my default setting from going through TNA and going through WCW, I'm like, this is serious. This is serious, right? But I love your innocence, Martin. It's very funny. It really is. But yeah, look, even if that had happened, I think they could have still done business, right? I think they still could have been like, hey, and that probably would have happened, right? What happens next throws that out the window. So swear to God, folks, this is not made up, right? This comes from any sources you want to pull from. What Culture, Fightful, The Wrestling Observer, Forbes. It goes on and on.
Despite Dara saying that, let me preface heavily. Everything else we're about to say is completely allegedly. And definitely a joke.
Absolutely.
Nothing we're about to say is serious or at all is real. Are we good? We're good. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. There's a lot of alleged what's going on here.
He's saying allegedly every 5 seconds. So it's all a joke. Let's just say that.
That's all a joke. Well, all I'm saying is, there are copious sources on this, and there are three sides to it. There's CM Punk's side, there's the book side, and then there's the truth, right? At the moment, there's an independent investigation going, a literal, real, independent investigation on this.
A special master, you might even say.
A special master, yes. Exactly. So, yeah, at the moment now, the police have been involved. There's lawsuits and everything pending, right? So that's all we can say. So everything here is alleged, blah, 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 right? But we're going to give you what has been reported, okay? So after this happened, Punk said, if anyone has a problem with what I said, come and find me. Which, again, I can't believe Tony Khan wasn't like... No, sorry, the best part of the whole thing was Tony Khan kept trying to calm him down. He goes, no, Tony, don't say anything. It's not your fault. And he goes back on these rants, and you're like, oh, well, okay. So the Bucks went and had a problem with it, because obviously, right? And apparently, allegedly, reportedly, they kicked in Punk's door. I really hope they slapped the leg when they kicked the door in. I really do.
They left that out of the report that they super kicked the door.
They super kicked the door. It's super kick party, and right. So I really hope they did that. And allegedly, of course. And then allegedly, Ace Steel, who's Punk's trainer, was involved as well. And there was, quote, a melee where Kenny Omega was bitten, allegedly, and had his hair pulled, allegedly. And then allegedly there was a chair thrown by Ace Steel to allegedly Matt Jackson, and then allegedly Punk swung. Allegedly.
Do you have a tick? What's happening here? Do you have a tick?
So we don't know, because this has been verified. There are two different sides of this, right? So I mean, guys, weigh in on this again. For legal, we don't really know exactly what happened. It hasn't been verified, but these are all what is out there and being reported by literally everybody in the wrestling world. There's been hours of shows on this at this point. YouTube is a phenomenal way to get caught up with the craziness of this story. So hold on, Dave, since this is your first show back, welcome back, of course. What a week, what a story to lean on.
Oh my gosh, especially since CM Punk's that guy that, time after time has gotten me back into wrestling. I've always been that, CM Punk, Paul Heyman guy. I remember the pipe bomb. I was like, I don't care about wrestling. And then boom, Summer of Punk happened.
You're right back
and
in.
It was brilliant. I was right back in at a time when WWE was very stagnant. And when he came back to Fox to do that show, I was like, all right. And I actually watched that show, which I was probably the only person that watched it.
I watched it too, to be fair. I watched it too.
So I did enjoy him there. And when he came back to AEW, I watched all of his appearances. I didn't necessarily watch the rest of AEW, but he made me tune in. And so it's tough because people are like, he's selfish, he's arrogant, he thinks he's bigger than the company. For some fans, he really is.
Yeah.
And that makes it really difficult because I want to sit here and can we say the S word or no?
No.
Okay, so I'll just change it to Eminem lyrics. I'd love to stand for CM Punk, but at the same time, there's never an excuse to punch somebody. I mean, this makes what Will Smith did to Chris Rock look mild. So,
well, see, again, if this had been for the business, if this had been like an angle, like Martin was saying, they could have made a serious amount of money. Like this could have set up feuds for the rest of probably for the next 2 or 3 years, right? Feuded with everybody. But the fact it was real, and I just love the fact that someone in 2020 said, I'm going to bite someone. I'm like, how does that happen?
I mean, my daughter bit my finger today, but I don't know.
But a grown man allegedly biting Kenny Omega, which I'm like, this is incredible. So I really hope the new AEW game has that feature where you can bite someone backstage.
A bite mechanic?
A bite mechanic? I mean, if that's not in there, get on that, guys. Come on.
And poor old Kenny, who's just managed to bloody sellotape himself back together. He's away for over a year recovering from like a dozen different injuries.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Poor Kenny. Like, apparently the books did, from reports, the books went to Punk. Right, so Punk didn't seek them out. So you're like, who's in the wrong here? But here's where this gets interesting. I mean, the whole thing is interesting, but the books went and got the head of legal, right? Who's number 2 in AEW, right, next to Tony. So,
and that's also the head of legal for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which
correct.
Tony's daddy owns.
Yeah, correct.
Now, pays everybody's checks, because I saw people being like, Tony needs to step up and remind people who pays the checks. Yeah, it's not you, bud.
But here's the interesting part, right? If you're going to do something wrong, you're not going to bring the head of legal, right? Like, you're just not. Like, no, I mean, you're not. Like, you're going to try to cover yourself, right? So that's the disconnect, right? I don't really buy that the Bucks super kicked the door down and went and attacked Punk, right? It seems a hell of a lot more likely that Punk's the aggressor here, but we don't know. We genuinely don't know. And that's kind of...
The tight lips... Sorry, Darren.
Sorry.
The tight lips, I'm having to getting used to audio only without being able to see when you pause. I apologize, listeners, for cutting Darren off. But like you said, with Tony not acknowledging, that was...
Yeah, that was very telling.
Had to be real. That's when it goes, oh, this isn't this work shoot we all think it is, because otherwise... He would say something, but you could even do the whole storyline of bringing in a special master, independent investigator, whatever you want to call it. That could all be storyline, and you just, keep the elephant in the room there, but you don't talk about it. But it was like Chris Benoit style of nope.
It went too far.
Acknowledging.
It went talking. Yeah, it went way too far. And the thing of it is like it seemed to whatever the truth of this is, and we will know eventually, and we'll let you guys know.
Maybe.
Well, no, look, it will come out eventually. Like, it has to. It's the biggest story.
A drunken shoot, like 10 years from now, but there's going to be NDAs out the wazoo on this one.
Maybe, but we will know through the legal case. The fact that there are lawsuits and courts are involved here, and police are involved in this. I mean, they're talking about Ace Steel. That's his name. Ace Steel probably doing jail time for biting someone and then allegedly throwing a chair at someone. It's like, come on. Like, it's so unfortunate. It really is. But the story continues, right? And Martin, I'm going to bring you in here now in a second, right?
Sure.
So this was going on from Monday into Tuesday into Wednesday, and obviously Wednesday's when Dynamite is. Dynamite then started, and we were all watching it. I stayed up and watched Dynamite as well. Martin, so did you, and for listeners, that's very late in Irish time, right? We were watching it, and it opened
especially when 2 nights earlier you'd sat up to watch the bloody pay-per-view.
Yes, exactly. So TK was, he opened the show and he vacated all the titles, right? But what was interesting was, one, they didn't mention it, which they probably should have, right? Because I mean, if you're going to work the shooty shoot, worky work angle, you probably should have done that.
100%.
You know,
Legal reasons, right? I mean, legally, I don't think you can talk about it, and I think that's where we're going. Oh, it has to be a shoot, or you know what I'm saying? Like
fair, but he should
Well, I
have.
mean, he didn't have to come on and go, I'm vacating the titles because Ace Steel bit Kenny Omega. Like, he could have come on and said, we've had, there's an investigation happening into a backstage incident, and until that happens, I want to move the company forward. We're going to vacate the title.
Yeah, like, I think that would have been better.
I don't understand why he didn't, because everybody knows.
Yeah, like I mean, the thing about it is, it's their entire core audience lives on the internet. Legitimately, that's the company that they go for, like Smarks, you know. It's not like this was a very WWE move. Like it really was. It was a bizarre like Vince McMahon move, and you're like, what are you doing? Like either you're.
Well, I mean, he needs a job now.
Yeah, that's fair. But okay, it continues. So they actually edited out the Bucks and Punk and Omega from AEW's opener, which is very weird. Which suggests so. On Tuesday into Wednesday, it was announced that Omega, the Bucks, Christopher Danielson, who apparently just tried to break them up, which is kind of so because I mean he didn't do anything, and a few others have been suspended because this was a full-on melee apparently, right? So they're suspended, and we don't know how long they're suspended for. We just know they're not released, right? So they were suspended. I think it'll be until this investigation is wrapped up. Punk and Ace Steel, however, not a word. Which leads to believe, and this story from What Culture, in another update in the ever-developing situation between CM Punk and AEW, the current lay of the land is that the Second City's Saints with time with the company is coming to an end. Speaking to PW Torch audio show, Wade Keller indicated that it is presently more likely for Punk to exit AEW than to remain with Tony Khan's promotion. Now, okay, so here's the full list. Omega, Young Bucks, Chris Daniels, Pat Buck, Michael Nakazawa, and Brandon Cookler. Yeah, man. So, like, that's what I would see too.
You have to ask how effective Brandon Cutler would be in a fight to the point where he had to be suspended.
Well, what's funny is we know Punk's terrible in a fight. Do you know? I mean, if you watch his MMA career, it's terrible. So I'm like,
oh, your man toyed with him. Didn't actually. But you know what's funny? Your man get in trouble for
messing with him,
knocking him out when he had the chance.
You know what's funny though? Like last week, Martin, we were talking about, we shouldn't compare like for like. We can't buy Punk, and it's like, you had to have someone to allegedly bite to save him. It's like I'd imagine like a Pokemon battle. Was like, hey, Steel, I choose you. Use bite. You know.
Apparently
very effective against the Dragon Ball Z character.
Apparently, one of the things that came out was that Ace Steel's wife was in the room,
and
she has a broken leg.
She doesn't. She couldn't move.
And this melee was sort of moving towards her, and she couldn't move, and that's why he decided to bite.
It's such a bizarre thing to do. I mean, like, look, when Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels had their melee and there was hair pulling, I'm like, lads, hair pulling? Really? That's what you're doing? But this one ups it. It had alleged hair pulling and biting. And I'm like, what is this? You guys get paid to pretend to fight and you can't actually do it. It's mad. Mad. Wrestling is the best, guys. It really is.
So it's interesting that you bring up Brett and Shawn, because like obviously this is a company where, like, Punk in particular, where a lot of the guys really idolize Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
And those were two guys who had real, genuine, serious
nuclear heat.
Yeah, who still went out and worked every week because they knew there was big money to be made. So I genuinely, I don't think Punk's leaving. I think, given his, he seems to have a bit of a short fuse and an ego on that, I think he'll be gone longer, and this injury will be used as the excuse, and they'll give it time for everything to settle down and people to calm down. But I think, like, the end of the day, wrestling business all comes down to dollars, and I think they'll all know that there's ridiculous money being left on the table if they don't come back. But
it takes two people to do that, and Punk has walked away from more money before. The thing about it is, it's like,
Yeah.
you're looking at it here, right? So the story again develops more, right? So
it's still before the story goes on though. I mean, this was $1 million house.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge for
Huge.
AEW, and that
Huge.
was because of Punk.
Yeah.
So it is a weird situation where he brings in money to the company, but I don't know, man.
So,
I guess
he's also only a year into whatever. I don't know if the details of it were ever made public, but he's only a year into whatever outrageous contract he signed that got him back into wrestling.
The situation backstage, though, is nuclear. As in, they do not want Punk there. And from what I heard, it's either that they fire the Elite and the Elite go to WWE, which they totally will, or Punk. And I mean, I heard tales that there were remediation and stuff, but they've passed that. Like, look how much he cannot stand Colt Cabana to the point that he doesn't even want to talk about him. How are you going to work? Like him and Hangman would have drawn a huge gate, particularly if they had to work this into a real thing. Him and Kenny Omega would have been amazing, you know. But here it continues on, right? So as you said, Punk is injured, like legitimately. So you have to work that in as well. And people said, oh, maybe it happened during the fight. No, apparently it happened during the suicide dive, during the main event, and he tore his tricep, which is what Cody Rhodes is actually out with now at the moment. So his tricep's completely off the bone, apparently. So I mean, Punk just got off an injury. He's injured again. It's going to be at least 9 months to recover from that because you don't rush that back, you know.
How old is he? 46, 47?
Mid 40s.
Yeah.
But here's the part where I'm like, okay, I don't really think you can walk this back. So it looks like from the evidence, and again, this comes from whatculture.com, also in the Observer. And I actually heard Dave Meltzer talk about this beforehand because he's like, we were told to go to the scrum because they didn't want to go initially. And it seems like they went to the scrum with some knowledge that something was going to happen. They didn't know this was going to happen, obviously. But it looks like Punk planned this. And he's been planning this for a while. So if you watch the show, you know, he's been taking snipes at, and we've covered this on the show, he's taken snipes at the Elite and Hangman throughout the past couple of weeks. And this whole thing now is planned. Now, my question to you guys, do you think it was planned to this extent? Do you think Tony knew what was going on? And if it was, why didn't they tell the Elite to calm down beforehand? Like, you think if you're going to do this, and you're actually going to do a worky work shooty shoot, you know, you're going to tell everybody. You're like, hey, look, he's going to say some pretty bad stuff. Don't bite anybody. You know? What do you guys think? Because, I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, if we were going to do a shoot angle, right, you'd let people know what's going on so this doesn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I never want to see AEW go the way of, you know, WWE's scripted promos and all that kind of thing. But you would think that you would have a conversation beforehand, like without even going through, you know, detail. I'm going to say X, Y, and Z. You would have a conversation with the person beforehand saying, look, I'm going to say this, this, and this. Just, you know, at all times, remember that we are playing characters.
Yeah. And it's funny because this whole situation apparently started because Hangman said something that upset Punk to the point that he held on a grudge for 6 months. Which, I mean,
while he was out injured.
It's crazy. It's like Punk needs to be told that wrestling isn't real. Someone needs to say it to him. It's like, man, it's not real. You gotta calm down. You know,
he fought in UFC. He still thinks it's real.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the, you know, I mean, Martin, you're right. You know, it sucks. It's one of those things where you're like, they're leaving serious money on the table here. You know, Punk has nowhere to go. You know, he can't go back to WWE. He can't go back to AEW. If there's Ring of Honor is bought by AEW, where's he gonna go? You know,
he's gonna go home to AJ Lee. That's amazing.
That's a fair point too. I mean, I don't even know why he's doing all this. It's like he just chill at home.
But yeah, one thing that was like glaring from the press conference, and I haven't seen anybody talking about it yet, and I think this needs to be addressed. Tony Khan needs a haircut. Like what's even going on there?
I don't know. I was
like,
just,
you wonder why he's not being taken seriously by the supposed executive vice presidents, whatever that means. But good Lord, but I wouldn't take him serious if my boss looked like that either. I don't know. It was just everybody.
I don't feel qualified to speak on anyone else's haircut.
Fair. I look. The media scrum thing. It's a great idea, right? But either it's sanitized and toothless, or this happens. And I mean, giving Punk a live microphone is a bad idea. Genuinely, it really is. You know.
And Punk has done kind of shooty media scrums before back when he was in WWE.
But here's the thing,
where he would show up and like act like, or he showed up at Comic-Con when he technically wasn't with WWE with the title and stuff like that. Like he's good at that, which is why it makes sense. But then when you have people like Brian Alvarez who were there, and it's like, but I wasn't there for the scrum. I know nothing about it. Don't quote me on anything. I saw absolutely nothing. That's when it's like, yeah, you don't want to call to testify or something. Like this is weird. It's
so weird.
This is the best blending of kayfabe and reality that I've ever seen. By the way, name of one of my old columns, Kayfabe Reality.
That's true.
But plug aside, either it's the best blend of that I've ever seen in the history of this sport, or there's some sunny days going on.
Listen, if this is a work, right? One, I think the judge is going to be very upset. And two, like imagine if it is a work and they're in court and they're like, here, look, that wasn't real, right? Like it was what? I think they all go to jail then because wasting, that's a felony to do that, right? So I don't think...
I just want them to be in court and the judge to go, where's the defendant? Phil Brooks hasn't shown up yet. And then the next thing you hear, diddling out, when he comes bursting through the doors and walks down through the court.
Here's what they do, right? AEW were like, we're going live to the courtroom, and then it's all serious, and the judge turning around and it's Vince McMahon.
It's Colt Cabana.
No, he's one of the barristers.
Yes. Didn't Hornswoggle have like a court thing?
They did
years ago.
Yeah, the little person's court, I believe.
It's the little person's court.
That's what they called it, folks. That's what they called it. That was the name.
That's the correct term. I'm so subscribed to the Little People of America newsletter. Comes once a month. You ever know where their convention is? You can find me at @DaveStevens on Twitter. Fair.
That's, it doesn't. Yeah, Dave, I missed you on the show, man. I did.
It's true. You can look at my emails. I'm dead serious.
But look, here's the thing. So we're going to move away from this because this is again still developing, and it's one of the things that we can't really put a pin in it. But Martin, it's weird, right? In the space of a month, we've had the two biggest stories in wrestling in years, probably.
Oh, it's
just
insane.
The Vince McMahon thing, which we didn't think would happen, and then AEW basically imploding from the inside. There's also a conspiracy theory that Punk is working for the WWE, and he's actually destroying AEW from the inside, which I don't know. Maybe.
Well, this is one of the reasons I just got off Twitter altogether. It's just a minefield of absolute nonsense. Like,
absolutely.
Do you think that will go down with that Vince Russo was sent to WCW by Vince McMahon? Like, is that the level that we're on?
Yeah,
like,
I think
Punk was sent to AEW by Triple H, who they're clearly besties.
Oh, they love each other, really. But it's funny because all the promo work that they did a couple of years ago, Triple H looks like he was saying exactly what's going on, where he's like, and you're watching the promos, you're like, whoa, he was like spot on. So Triple H, ultimate good guy, really? Question mark? I think so. Just saying. But look, we're going to move away from this because, we could talk about it all night. We're going to move over to, and look, more updates on this we'll let you know as the shows go on. Martin and Dave, I'm going to hand this over to you guys, and you're going to go through All Out because I'm interested to hear Dave's thoughts on this, who hasn't covered a show in a while. And Martin, I want you to have the floor here because we've laughed enough at AEW's misfortune, so let's give them some good press. So take it away, Martin.
I thought this was a very good pay-per-view. It wasn't one of their, it's hard to say best ever because they're only 3 years and they only happen every 3 months, so it's not that there's dozens to choose from. I wouldn't put it in the top half of all the pay-per-views they've ever had, but I still thought it was a great show. Some of it was hampered slightly by booking that made more sense later in the event, like the ladder match. I get that it was setting up for MJF's return, and it did pay off big when MJF came out. But at the time, it kind of made all the like mad stunts that the guys were doing with the ladders before the Joker came out. It kind of made all that redundant. Like it was all kind of instantly overshadowed, which again was a pity, because some of the guys like Dante Martin and that were just putting their life and limb on the line with some of the stunts they were pulling. A couple of the matches were angles more than matches. The Luchasaurus, Christian Cage, Jungle Boy storyline. You know, I was hyped up for a really good match between Christian Jungle Boy, because Christian can really still pull it out of the bag. Apparently he's injured, so that kind of explains why it was more of an angle. And it was a really good angle. That was an unbelievable choke slam he took. But then again, some of the matches in the night only went 4, 5, 6 minutes, and you know, while not even necessarily being bad, just didn't feel very pay-per-view worthy. I noticed earlier Dave said that he didn't think it was great, or that it was fine, but it certainly wasn't worth $50. And I'd kind of maybe sympathise with you there, because over on this side of the pond we get it on Fight TV for 18. So
it's
definitely worth 18.
It's definitely worth 18. And look, again, I agree with Dave to an extent. A lot of this was angled. I was expecting a bigger show, but yeah. Christian Cage, he's great. It's funny, just on that point, I'll let you go back in a second, but whenever I'm on Facebook or something, in the several wrestling groups, and people are like, oh, Christian Cage is great, I'm like, yeah. Did you not watch TNA? And they're like, oh no. I'm like, why weren't you watching TNA? I watched TNA. It was brilliant. Christian Cage was the best thing. He had his little staple and everything with AJ and Tomko, and then Tomko robbed the Burger King and got arrested.
Well, I'm excited.
I love that
for
the
us
guy
to go
that's
back and do TNA. No, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, I love that the guy that's putting AEW down constantly is also reveling in the good old days of TNA.
No, see, it's just because I've lived through TNA, and I'm like, I've seen all this before. It can only go so bad. But I just love the fact that, like, people just aren't aware of how bad it can go. And it's just like, okay, well, watch some TNA. And then I just love the fact that Tomko, you know, shot up heroin in the Burger King that he just robbed instead of leaving. And that's why he got arrested. And that's why he hasn't been in WWE since. Oh, man. I can't wait until we cover TNA on the show, guys. I really am excited for it. It's going to be wonderful. Terrible, but wonderful.
If you take the drama, right? So take all the drama out of this show, and just, I know it's difficult given everything that's happened, but look at this purely as a wrestling show. Like Eddie Kingston, Tomohiro Ishii, that was a top of the line match.
Yes. The
Elite versus Dark Order for the trios title, top of the line match.
We should mention too. Aleister Black gone, or Malachi Black is gone from AEW. He asked for his release, so he actually gave a bow in All Out because of that reason.
Yeah, is he dealing with?
Yeah,
been a couple of reports that he's just dealing with kind of mental health issues, and that he's just
the report from WrestleMania and the rest of the lads is that his contract, like, he was given his release with specific terms. Like, he can't just show up. He was supposed to wrestle this weekend for an independent, and he can't do it. So apparently it's to deal with his mental health. But there's also other reports that he wants to go back because he has an incredibly good relationship with Triple H. So he probably will go back to WWE.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah.
But then, like, you had the Wardlow FTR, the 6-man with the Motor City Machine Guns.
Oh, dude, I was so happy to see the guns.
Great stuff with the...
I was so happy to see the guns. I was just...
they were brilliant.
They're one of my favourite tag teams. And again, if you guys haven't checked out in TNA, they were one of the best parts of TNA until they split them up and they start giving them world titles, which was, that was a mess. But as a tag team, they're one of the best tag teams ever. Dave, you remember when they were in TNA, don't you?
Oh, how can you forget the great days of Kevin Nash and Alex Shelley?
What did they call themselves? I can't remember. There was a name.
Yeah, it wasn't U-Shoot. That was an actual wrestling shoot thing.
An actual thing.
It's escaping me, but it was brilliant.
It was
brilliant.
Kevin
actually
was,
Kevin was actually really good.
Yeah, he was just hanging out with all the X Division guys for no reason. It was hilarious.
No limits, man. No weight limits.
No limits. Yeah, but he never wrestled them. He just hung out with them. It was just backstage, like
just collecting his paychecks and having Alex Shelley shoot people with a camera randomly in the parking lots. Why not?
Oh my god, I love it. Anyway, sorry, Martin.
Swerve in Your Glory and The Acclaim came out, and this, I wasn't even looking forward to this match. I just thought it was kind of a nothing match. This had the whole place like on fire. They were hyped for this, and I really suspect that we're going to get an Acclaimed title change at Arthur Ashe either next week or the week after. And then the last three matches of the pay-per-view were all good to excellent. You had Jericho Danielson, the Sting, Miro, House of Black, 6-man, and then the main event, Punk and Moxley. So, like, if you look at this purely as a wrestling event, I mean, it was really high quality.
Okay, my turn.
Yes, your turn.
Yeah. So, So unfortunately, I didn't watch the pre-show till after I watched the regular show, which is really a shame because those were probably some of the best matches of the night. What needs to be said right off the bat: 15 matches is too much for one show.
It makes
no sense.
It's far too much.
Way too much.
Way too much.
Matches weren't given the time that they deserved. The championship match, I'll start off with that and just kind of end load on it right there. Good. With 20 minutes more, phenomenal. And that's why I don't go, it was a great match, because I know how much more it could have been. And it was just a time restraint thing.
Well,
which you could probably see in the Sting match, which got all of, it was a 6-person match, 12 minutes, that's 30 seconds per person that's in that match.
Had enough time for them to do all their stuff, though.
I mean, they got their ish in, but aside from that.
That was it. That was what they were doing. That was the only thing they were there for. Do your stuff and then collect your paycheck.
Well, let me so I did enjoy the show. Like I said, I didn't think it was terrible. I just thought it was good. I hated the opening, the ladder match. I was into it. And then as soon as all the masked figures came out, like Martin said, it kind of took any legitimacy away from anything else that had happened.
Yeah.
And they didn't do the unveiling of MJF there. So I was just like, okay. And it kind of killed my momentum for the rest of the show. Like at that point, I was like, I don't care. I just watched Clash at the Castle yesterday, and that was great start to finish. This is like a fifth of the people there in the audience. It doesn't have that same feel to it. So that was rough.
And that's why TK was upset too. He got very angry. He was like, they're running a show against me. And it's like, welcome to wrestling.
Yeah, welcome to wrestling, bud. You wanted competition, you got it. And,
like, dude, I remember when we were on WrestleView, and like there'd be a TNA show, and WWE would just run like a house show, and it would just kill it. So it's like welcome.
Why
This is what they do.
So yeah, I mean, that was kind of, I had no idea who, since I hadn't been watching AEW regularly, I didn't even know who wasn't on the roster that potentially could be under the mask. So for me, I was just like, okay, and we're not even going to unveil them. So okay, next, I guess. And unfortunately, next was some of the best wrestlers in the world having one of those boring matches I've ever seen them have, which blows my mind. The trios match did nothing for me. So right off the bat, I was turned off by 2 matches. But I just kind of survived, I think, the pay-per-view for a bit. The tag match was good. The other trios match was good with the Motor City Machine Guns and Jay Lethal. I mean, really the best things to come out of the night are, my 2 favorite gals in AEW both won, that being Toni Storm and Tay Mello over there. So credit to where credit's due. But the Luchasaurus thing, I agree. It was a storyline, so it's nifty. But what the heck is the storyline? If you're just watching the pay-per-view, not keeping Dynamite in our minds. There was no explanation given for why Luchasaurus turned. You don't just turn viciously after a decade together as a team or however long they were in the Indies. And it just, as somebody who is approaching it as, I'm a casual AEW fan, but definitely a hardcore wrestling fan, is this going to suck me in and make me want to watch more of their product? No, I was just like, okay, this happened. I've seen that before. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So if I take all the storylines out, just looking at it from a wrestling perspective, yeah, sure, great. If I went to an independent show and I got this card and I paid $30 or even $50 for like nice seats at an independent show, which would be like front row, I'd be losing my mind and say it's the best show I've ever been to. But to have this on a pay-per-view, the booking was super sketch, to put it best way I possibly can. Matches weren't given the time that they needed. There were too many matches on the card. Like I said before, they have too many stars that aren't being utilized at all, or if they are being utilized, aren't being utilized correctly. And you just can't make a Chicago main event with Punk less than 20 minutes long. Where's the payoff for the crowd that's there? Who, for all of us who have sat through 4-hour shows in person, and that's not even including the pre-show, by the time you get to that main event, I mean, it's really got to be something special, or else you just don't have the energy left. And I know they tried to get us into it with the Darby Allin match beforehand, the sixth out of the other trios match, because, why not do trios matches when you have way too many wrestlers, right? I guess. But it fell flat there. And then you had the reveal at the end, which was cool. But at that point, I forgot about the ladder matches, 14 matches later on the card. So it had potential, but the booking was super questionable for me. And if the booking is being done by these executive vice presidents, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean, yeah, they couldn't run a Target because they couldn't run this show. That's for sure. I'm going to drop my mic right there.
Yeah, I mean, so the likes of the trios titles, I think that's just a style or a personal preference thing. Some people are into that kind of wrestling. Some people aren't.
I will watch AAA any day of the week. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what the storylines are, but what they do is brilliant. I love trios matches. But when it's just trios matches because you have too many stars and you don't know what to do with them, that's where I go, what's really happening here? And I think that's just the over-analytical, trying to be casual, but trying to diagnose what I'm watching so I could talk about it situation that I found myself in. But again, I just want to emphasize, despite everything I said, which might sound really negative, it's all really meant, hey, if you change a couple things here and there, give matches more time, spread the card out. Some of those great matches that you had on the pre-show were better than what you had on the pay-per-view. So put them on the pay-per-view, put the next people on the next pay-per-view. That's why you have one every month.
Well, you don't have one every month.
But, well, okay.
They only have 4 a year, but it's funny.
All right. Well, what do I know? It's AEW. But the point is, the point I'm trying to get to is, despite all the things I said, there's supposed to be constructive criticism because I want to see the company do well. I genuinely do.
So here's the thing.
I thought it was good. I really did think it was a good show.
Here's the thing I have for you guys, right? And it is important. And if you don't mention it now, because at the top of the hour we are going to go to Clash at the Castle, but this was done. This whole the CM Punk John Moxley match was great, right? But that was done for the interim title to be. Sorry, the interim title tournament thing was done, and then they had one stuff, right? So that was all done. And then Punk won the belt, and now the belt's gone.
And now, Dara, none of us mentioned this, and it deserves to be mentioned. Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson was an amazing match. Fantastic. And if that's what we're going to be seeing from this company going forward, I'm in. I'm in all the way. And that's kind of my point, is there are really great gems, just you got to highlight them.
And genuinely,
I was really surprised that the reaction to that match was so mixed because, like yourself, I thought it was
they were burned
fantastic.
They were burned out.
And I thought, from people online.
Oh, really?
Like people talking about it afterwards. And on the night that it was, like you say, you did have 3 trios matches in that whole show. I thought it was a brilliant change of pace and change of style, and I was just genuinely surprised that the reaction to it was so mixed.
No, it's the same reaction, and like Dara's saying, it's the same reaction that AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura got at WrestleMania. It was a great match, but it was buried 6 hours into a 7-hour card.
Yeah.
So by that point, we were just burned out.
You just don't care.
Much as we wanted to care, even I, who love both this, especially AJ, was like, Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see the crowd on their feet, but maybe they could have done something. No, they couldn't have done something more. They just didn't. It was just too long of a. There was just too much going on for them to shine, and that's. I guess that's can highlight how WWE can mess it up, AEW can mess it up, Ring of Honor, everybody can mess it up. Just learn and move forward.
Yeah, like look, the perfect card is having, not 15. It's 8 to 10 max, because no matter how good it is, you're still either it's going to be like a 20-second match, a squash match, or it's going to be, you're just going to be tired. You're just not going to care. Or even the longer match, the 6-man tag, which again they all got their stuff in, but that was it. But the point I wanted to make, we've gone through already an interim title, right? And we've already gone through tournaments, and now there's another tournament. Martin, I would have rather he just come out and said Mox versus Jericho or Jericho versus Danielson, for the belt.
I'm really looking forward to this particular tournament because unlike some of the other ones where the early matches of it are big star kind of mid card, or you kind of know who's winning, this one's all killer, no filler. So like I can understand maybe being burned out on tournaments. I'm just genuinely excited about this one. And if it goes the way I think it's going to go with Danielson Mox final.
Yeah, I think that's probably the safe bet.
Yeah, and hopefully, I hope they put it on Danielson.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, Mox is amazing. But, he had the belt, he lost the belt, he had the belt, he dropped the belt. I think it's time to, go with someone else for a while.
But you can build a whole entire company around Danielson.
Oh, easily, yeah.
You really can. And I mean, imagine even even when he gets injured, he still works, which is probably bad, but he still does it. I mean, imagine the matches he can have with the Forbidden Door thing, where he can go to Ring of Honor, where he can do, New Japan, all that kind of stuff. It'll be great to see, but it's...
He's won Tope Suicida right from the end of his career is the problem.
But for life of me, I don't know why they didn't build the company around Jericho and Danielson and Mox. I don't know why they went for the shiny unpredictable, because it bit them, and it has bit them. And look, I like tournaments, I really do, but I'm also eating my words because I'm like, oh my God, another tournament again.
Well, I hope one thing they learn from all this, and in particular Tony Khan learns from all this, is that like the kind of shoot, is it real, is it not, angles, they're not really that compelling, and they have they're just fraught with chances for blowing up in your face.
Yeah, it's playing football with a landmine. It might not go off.
The payoff isn't worth the reward isn't worth the risk with them. Yeah. And the thing is that up until that, the stuff that was really compelling was the stuff that was completely worked. Like MJF coming back, you knew that wasn't a real, recorded phone call with TK that he was putting out, but it worked as part of the show, and it was, so look, I really hope they cool it on the, Vince Russo shoot
but
stuff.
It's funny you mention it though, because you're like, oh, he's a wrestling historian. It's like, he didn't learn anything. And, I often say that history in its entirety, it doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And that's when we start seeing this, is like, oh, okay. And, thank God that they have Chris Jericho, that they have Danny Bryan, who can actually come in and be like, and apparently Chris Jericho has been praised for, putting a lot of this together, to fix things. And, if they didn't have that would be it. It's crazy how quick this whole thing can just go because of repeating mistakes that were made. But look, final word. I'm gonna give you a letter grade on this, Martin. What would you give the show?
B.
B. Okay, Dave. I think it's going to be a little less for you, is it?
Yeah, it was a C+.
Okay. I'd give it probably a C+ as well. Again, the main event was great despite what happened afterwards. Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson. Of course, it's good. There's a lot of really good stuff there. If you haven't seen it, do watch it, guys. We're gonna take a quick break here on the Phoenix FM show. So if you're listening to this, go over to nerdtoknowmedia, and you can also get all everything you need to do from the thewrestlingrewindshow.com. Anything you want to plug, Martin, before we wrap up the FM segment?
No, just get over to Wrestling Rewind and check out our link tree. We have a truly glorious link tree.
Yeah, we
Dara daily waters it, clips it, looks after it like a wee bonsai. He's very proud of it.
I am indeed. Dave, your big moment. Hashtag Save Dave, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the hashtag's on. I'll be back in a couple weeks, fear not. But in the meantime, you can, of course, don't follow me on Twitter. Don't do it. It's at @DaveStevens. Do not follow me. Please, I beg you, don't follow me. Don't write to me on Twitter. It's public. Anybody can. You can send me messages. I'll read them. Please don't. Yeah, that's my plug. Follow me on Instagram, though. Same handle. There you can see me juggle.
Very good. Well, guys, we're going to be back next week here on Phoenix FM, but we're going to continue on the stream right now. So, guys, switching gears. We're going to go
switching gears here.
Don't follow me. Reverse psychology, folks. Please follow me.
Absolutely. It's like that bit from The Simpsons, the liminal, superliminal, and subliminal. Join the Navy.
It was. Can I ask you a question before we move on to Cash at the Castle or whatever it was called?
Sure.
I know how to speak. So, you said earlier if they had just focused things from the start, from the get-go, around Moxley and Danielson, Jericho, like those sort of likes, how much better things would be. But don't you think that a lot of the appeal of AEW was we're bringing in these New Japan and indie guys, these Bucks and Omega that have never had a national TV chance, and we're going to highlight them, and people love them. It'll bring in the internet fans. And the flip side of that is if you do make it centered around all these WWE guys, aren't you just WCW? And we'd be saying that from the start. I mean, I appreciate the risk. You know what I mean?
That's fair. But I mean, there's one thing about bringing them in and using them as talent. There's another thing about making them executives of the company. These are different things.
Can somebody please explain to me what that means? Do they get the book matches? Do they get the right promos? Do they make extra money? What does it mean?
All of the above, I think.
Apparently, prior to last year, it was a genuine role. Like they had serious say in the direction of the company, serious say in storylines. And at some stage, I can't remember, maybe it was December last year, for whatever reason, TK sort of had this sit down meeting with them and was like, look, I'm the booker. I will absolutely take your suggestions on board, and I'll come to you for advice and all that. But you can't have 4 captains of the ship. So they've kept the title EVP, but apparently nowadays it doesn't mean as much as it did, say, in the first year or two of the company.
Gotcha.
Maybe Cody was right to run.
What did Cody know?
That's it.
Cody Rhodes has never done a good thing in his life.
Yeah,
so what did he know?
What did he know? Like, it's incredible. It's like he leaves, Vince McMahon retires, Triple H takes over, WWE gets popular again, and AEW gets burned to the ground almost.
It's a joke, Cody. Please don't blacklist me. I like you.
I love. I thought Cody was on the absolute verge, like just right at the tipping point of like an amazing all-time heel turn when he left AEW. I know maybe he just didn't want to do it. Maybe he saw the big stars that were coming in and knew, like,
he did go heel. He did the ultimate heel turn. He went to WWE.
Well, there you go.
He became the ultimate heel.
But yeah, I don't think it was anything. I think his decision was more motivated by, where he was going to be the bigger star, the reaction he was getting from audiences, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's look.
There's lots of incentives in there from WWE. Like, we would like to use your dad's name more. We want to get some tournaments back under Dusty Rhodes, like we used to do in NXT.
We want Stardust back.
We know. Well, maybe. He did do that cartwheel at WrestleMania, but it allows them to use the Rhodes name without promoting AEW. And I think from a business standpoint, oh my gosh, it's best for business, is what I'm saying.
Do you think if he wins the title at WrestleMania, he'll chuck that gaudy, awful W thing out and unveil the old winged eagle?
There has been reports actually that belt designs are being changed.
Yeah, Because it wasn't a Cody who brought back like the original Intercontinental title.
I hate that belt. I love the Attitude Era.
Really?
Yeah, I love the Attitude Era one. I really do. It's my favorite one.
Which one was silver?
That was the one Cody brought back, wasn't it?
Yeah. I like the silver one. Whichever era that was from, I like that.
See, I don't know. I just like the Attitude Era. But no, they should bring back the European title, and should have brought it back a Clash of the Castle.
Well, the European title.
They did bring it back.
They
NXT.
didn't bring it back. It's still.
They sure did. It's called NXT Europe.
Yeah, but you don't have Al Snow out there pretending to be from France. You know. I mean, I don't want to see actual Europeans with it. I want to see Al Snow again. You know.
Claudio.
Yeah, Claudio. Well, he's with Ring of Honor now. Fortunately.
By the way, another standout on the pay-per-view. Whatever he was doing, lifting that ladder, sure impressed me. Too bad a lot of people ran in and ruined the match. Yeah,
it really is a pity because that was class before that happened, and it just like everything just got forgotten. Like I can't even remember like any of the cool stuff that happened in the first half of it.
I think AEW needs to be very careful to not repeat the mistakes of WWE or the mistakes of WCW, and doing that kind of stuff, it overbooks things. But one thing that they should do, you know, that I was thinking during the week, and because I saw a meme where it was like, instead of having TK, you know, deal with all these legal issues, you have a match. Punk, Ace Steel and the Dog versus the Bucks.
Kennel from Hell.
TK and a pole match.
I was thinking Kennel from Hell.
Kennel from Hell would work too, but, you know, actually that would even be better. Okay, how about this?
Yeah.
Kennel from Hell with TK suspended from the ring.
By the way, how silly is it, just from a rules standpoint, that you could win a ladder match before all the participants are in it? Like, what? I know that you can't be Money in the Bank when you're literally putting on Money in the Bank, but that's Vince Russo stuff right there, and I love it, but not there.
You're only short of like hanging the belt back up and then pinning someone. And
that's such an easy fix. That's something that they could fix just by saying the title won't be lowered until the final competitors in the ring. Like,
yeah, that's not bad.
I like that. And let's say that you have to get pinned before you can even go up to get the title.
And then when you get pinned, you have to go into a cage.
I like that.
This is brilliant. I love this. This is oh man, Vince Russo
climbing the ladder gets you the key to the 3 stages of hell, 3-tiered WCW cage,
and then one of those has all guitars all over it that don't get used. Oh man.
What do you want? We're called the Wrestling Rewind. You think we're not going to reference things that are 3 decades or 2 decades old? Of course we are. That's what we do.
Exactly. I mean, when it's a marked improvement over what the current product is, you know, it's fine, you know. But you know, again, I feel really sorry for Tony Schiavone, and I'd love to ask him, like, did you get flashbacks to Nitro when Dynamite was happening this week? Because he had to be like, oh, I've been here before. Like, I was expecting Mark Madden to come out and, you know, start saying something horrendous about women.
Oh my God.
No. Did you see, just a sweet interlude here for our UK fans, which is probably most of you. Did you see what Jerry Lawler posted after the Queen died to Twitter?
No.
He posted, you know, obviously like something about like takes a king to know a queen or something like that. But,
right.
You know, rest in peace, blah, blah, blah. He's like, but I'll never forget the time that Michael Cole was knighted by the queen. And he posted like the image of the person like pretending to be the queen and knighting. And he's like, Sir Michael. And I'm like, what's
wrong with you?
Did you see William Regal's tweet?
Yeah, it was good.
That's nice. That was good.
How are they going to fit Charles's ears onto the stamp?
I mean, that's a true statement.
Wait, hold on. The tweet I saw from Regal was "Rest well, my queen." I didn't see. I saw people joking about.
He followed it up.
He put out a tweet saying, "How are they going to fit Charles's ears onto the stamp?"
Oh, that's messed up. I have no problem. Sorry, UK people. I have no problem mocking monarchy, because we fought and died, so we didn't have to respect it. So I'm cool with it.
You're aware the other two lads on the call are from Ireland.
Well, right, yeah.
We were genocided.
We're in the same boat.
You know.
Our listener base, I'm not attacking you.
It's funny. It is funny, like the whole thing, like the wrestling world covering when real. It's like, okay, so I remember when the Pope died, and they no one talked about it in wrestling. Then when the Queen dies, you have wrestling talk about. You're like, that's weird. I mean, I don't really like when the real world ties too much into wrestling, because you start getting weird things like that.
Right, like you might get fights backstage that have to go to court.
Once there's muffins involved, which apparently are really good. I have heard that those muffins are quite good, but
But
apparently
I don't want to gloss over that. That was a good Sergeant Slaughter reference, Martin.
Oh my god! All right, lads. So look, the Saturday, there was September 3rd. There was a show in Wales, not the UK, and Wales is the UK, but I mean not England and not Scotland, which WWE seem to believe these are all the same places.
Certainly not Drew McIntyre's home country.
No, absolutely not. I think he'd be very upset. It's like saying that like Sheamus is from London or from the UK. Also upsetting.
It's not even the country next to it. There's like a buffer of a whole country between Wales and Scotland.
Now here's the thing: there are some cool things in Cardiff. So if you're trying to save some money, you can get the ferry from Dublin to Cardiff, and it's a good spot apparently. Because I haven't been there. I'm actually going to Wales in November, but they have the Doctor Who exhibit there. So if you want to see where Doctor Who's filmed, it's in Cardiff. So there you go.
I hear Matt Smith gives tours personally now that he has nothing better to do.
I hope so. You know, Morbin time didn't work out for him, so he probably has to go back now and do that, you know. He's doing that terrible Game of Thrones show though, isn't he?
I think he is on that. I heard good things about it. It's no Rings of Power, but
Stop! No, do not even toy with me, Dave. Do not even toy with me about that show.
Jerry, are you going to be in this one or?
No, it's the thing. I didn't even realize this was being shot, so I'm not in this one. No, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm in like 3 seasons of Game of Thrones.
That's not a work. That's
no,
true.
that's legit. I have an IMDb page. You guys can look it up. Maren, what were you saying?
I was just asking, you're not a fan of House of the Dragon?
No, I haven't watched it. I haven't seen it.
It's actually really good.
Is it?
I'm genuinely surprised.
Okay.
So far, it's only like 4 episodes in, but so far it's excellent.
I'm more like unhinged when it comes to Rings of Power because it just kills lore. It just destroys lore completely. So, I mean, I'm not even going to entertain that.
Mark, can I ask you like an honest question? This is a wrestling podcast, obviously. As someone who refuses and will never watch the final season of Game of Thrones, would that impact me watching this prequel series?
No, it's not.
Okay.
There's like, it's done really well. It's very much its own story.
Oh, good.
There's like sort of wee nods and hints to, for fans. With Rings of Power, I'm actually quite enjoying it. But again, that's because I don't know the whole, the real Lord of the Rings lore.
I'll put it this way. The first 5 minutes fundamentally destroy the story they're trying to tell and make the entire Lord of the Rings Third Age impossible from happening. That's how much of the lore killer is.
See, I didn't understand any of that. So.
No, that's the thing. Like
the only thing that's been bothering me about it has been the phony Irish accents that they've had the hobbits doing.
Hobbits do. Look, as I said, if people watch it and enjoy it, but I'm not engaging with it because no. We're not doing it. We are not doing that. But no, I will watch House of the Dragon. But the thing about Matt Smith, on the point of Matt Smith, right? I feel bad for him because everything he's done since Doctor Who has failed. So I kind of wanted to succeed just so he has something to do. Because Morbin time should have been better. I liked it. I personally enjoyed that. No, that's a lie. It was the most boring thing I've ever seen. So it really was. It was atrocious.
I like their season in America. It was
good. That was good. All right.
That's how it's but here's the thing. We've been working on the accents, so let me know how I'm doing.
Terrible.
That's very good Jamaican.
Very good Jamaican. Yeah. It's like when your man, what's your man? Paul Rudd, just slapping the bass and it's like Jamaican. But okay, so some sad news from WWE actually, and it has kind of bummed me out. Pat McAfee is not going to be doing commentary anymore.
I saw that today.
Bizarrely, he's switched like a leading, like very upfront role with a major international company. Is he being like an announcer on college football?
Yeah.
Is college football like really big in the US, Dave?
Apparently it is, Dave. Yeah, is it?
Yeah, so I'll be watching the Bama game tomorrow at 10 a.m. But that's University of Alabama's game.
Is that Roll Tide?
That's Roll Tide. Yeah, absolutely.
See, I know this. Shout out to Josh Boutwell, who's not listening to the show at all.
No, he's not. But Josh, if you're listening, we'll translate this into Spanish for you. You're welcome. One person that gets that joke. Yeah, it is popular game day, which is what he's going to be on. Basically, it's like a pre-show where they talk about the games of the day and blah blah blah. But yeah, it's disappointing in some aspects because I've seen casual fans, whether that's Jenna, who laughs whenever McAfee talks. It's made me listen to his podcast, a couple cool episodes of that. It's definitely going to be a loss to the entertainment factor because I've always been a coal miner, but with Pat McAfee, I really love Michael Cole. So they have a really cool dynamic going on there. So yeah, it's a sad day for the WWE in terms of commentary because after years.
Is Coal Miner a reference to one of these college teams, or is
that
what you call Michael Cole?
They're called Michael Cole fans.
What year was that? Was in like 2011, 2010,
yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, at one point, Martin.
But he had his glass cage that he said.
Yeah, at one point he had a glass cage where he'd be in it, and he said, like, "This is for coal miners."
I'm just stunned that he's ever had enough fans that they warranted their own name.
He was massive. This was his massive heel turn where he had the WrestleMania win and everything over Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, if you discount what happened with Vince, that made SmackDown having 2 undefeated WrestleMania wrestlers on commentary, both Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, unfortunately.
But
McAfee lost his second match. But is it ever fair to have 2 matches back to back?
But in all seriousness, though, even when Vince was there and commentary was terrible, Pat McAfee managed to do his own thing. So, at least now, and he was my favorite. Actually, funny and true story. The first episode of SmackDown that Pat McAfee is on. That's the episode that I'm on the Thunderdome, so you can see me behind them.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, it's there you go. To put
You're
that
not one of the lads that was cutting heads off, or
no, I was there the whole time. It was grand, but I think they had ironed that out. At that point, when Chris Benoit was running, when Benoit stopped showing up on the shows, but
didn't Omega show up on one of those
Omega
shows?
showed up, yeah. He was watching it one time, yeah. When he wasn't getting bitten, allegedly.
That's why it needs to be a kennel from Hell, man.
Ace Steel in the cage. Just he's rebranded now.
In the kennel, yeah.
He's rebranded now as like Pepper the dog. That's a new gimmick, Let me book AEW. It'd be terrible, and I'd entertain myself something first. But
I thought your courtroom booking was fantastic.
Thank you.
If you book AEW like that, it'd be fantastic.
I appreciate it. That's what I do it for the lols and the memes. Okay, but seriously, guys, right? This show, I genuinely thought this was a better show from start to finish. It was much tighter. It was only 6 matches, and that main event, probably one of the best main events of the year. And also, I do have to say, Sheamus and Gunther, holy hell, why was that match so good? And I hope this leads to a lot more. So, who wants to take the lead on this?
Martin does.
Martin, go for it, sir.
Yeah, I enjoyed Clash. Obviously coming from me, I didn't think it was a patch on All Out. But I thought Sheamus and Walter had just one of the matches of the year. It's the kind of thing that Walter was doing in NXT, and that Sheamus is just you can see it when he's out there. He's just desperate to do. He wants to be let off the leash. Some of it didn't really hit for me. I've real concern, and as much as I want to like her, and I know that she's got a huge support amongst the fans, I have real concerns about Liv Morgan as champion.
How dare you?
I know.
No.
And I thought Shayna Baszler would have been great. And the match that I was most looking forward to, Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle, because I thought in ring that'd be brilliant, was a little bit let down by it. It was still a good match. It didn't reach just. I think these two are phenomenal in-ring performers, and I genuinely think that they have a 5-star match in them. And for whatever reason, it just didn't quite reach it.
There is some heat between them, though. Apparently.
Yeah, but like they're not biting each other backstage. So.
I love that's the bar now.
That's the standard.
How bad is it? Well, they're not biting each other, so it's not too bad.
I mean, overall the show was good. I mean, I
actually hold on 1 second, Martin. So long-term listeners to this show will remember the Katie Vick scale, right? We're bringing this back. So on a terms of 1 to 10,
it's the Katie Vick scale.
1 to 5 Katie Vicks, right? 5 being the worst, 1 being the least. How bad was the CM Punk brawl or melee on the Katie Vick scale? I'm going to go to you, Dave, first. How many Katie Vicks was it?
I didn't see it. I don't know.
No, but like
hasn't aired yet.
From the you just recorded it. It's gonna be on. It's gonna be on the Elite YouTube channel. No, okay. The backstage story. How bad was it? Biting allegedly and melee. I'm gonna say 3 Katie Vicks.
Ooh, that's generous. I mean, it's a 1. Let's just say it's true. Let's just say it's a work. It's a 1.
It's a 1. It's a work. Yeah,
because Katie Vick was a work.
Yeah.
If not. Then it's 5 Katie Vicks.
What about you, Dave? So what do you, Martin?
Yeah, I'd be in terms of Katie Vicks, I'd be inclined to go to the lower end of the scale, just because I mean the whole thing about the Katie Vick angle was that they sat down, they wrote that out, they filmed that, they edited it, and at no stage did anybody say, shall we stop? Shall we not do this?
This might be going too far.
So yeah, I don't think they're directly comparable, but yeah, maybe we need the Katie Vick scale for angles and stuff that happens in the show, and then we need the Ace Steel Chomper scale for.
I love that.
I like that.
I love that. Okay, that's brilliant.
Backstage.
That's brilliant. Okay. So we're enshrining that now. The Katie Vick scale for stuff that's on the show, that's written and kayfabe, and then the Ace Steel. The Ace Steel Chomper scale is for like real shootings. I love that, Martin. That's amazing, incredible, incredible. So it's just a shame that we didn't like break that out for. When we were going through WCW stuff, but then we have it enshrined.
Oh my god!
So I love it. Yeah. I love it. Okay, so there we go. Okay, folks. So yeah. Okay.
So the only other thing I'd say about the Clash of the Castle was, like I say, overall great show. Could have done without the singing at the end.
That was weird. I'm not gonna lie. Look, here's the thing. Up to that point, that was the weirdest thing that happened that weekend. Little did we know
how naive we were.
I love Drew McIntyre's old music came back though. Broken Dreams.
Was pretty cool.
That was so cool.
Sheamus asked for his old music back too, but they said no.
He might get it back eventually when he goes proper face, because it's a lot better.
It is.
It's a lot better.
The only other issue that I had with it was, I mean, it's the same kind of production stuff. That I mean, this is just a style thing. Either like it or you don't. That I've always had with WWE. It's very camera cuts. There's matches, and then there's 20 minutes of other stuff before there's another match. You know, there's ads and promo codes, and then backstage stuff, and then video package, and then there's like 20 minutes between matches, and there's just stuff like that. But that's just WWE stylistic stuff.
No, you have a great point. Like, doesn't it suck when advertisers actually want to invest in your product and not have their product next to a guy slicing somebody up with a pizza cutter? I mean, great point. Great point.
That's product integration. That's product placement.
Forget augmented reality.
I keep getting these ads for these Japanese knives. There you go. You should partner with them and be like, we're going to use these knives to blade. Just bringing this massive knife to blade, like. Look, I would say there is this criticism, and I want to get your opinion on it, guys. Should Roman Reigns have lost? Like, I know we said, Martin, last week that I honestly thought Roman Reigns was going to lose at least one of the belts. Were you
Yeah.
upset that Drew didn't win, Martin?
No, I wasn't upset because I didn't think he was going to.
By the way,
Firstly,
yeah, you actually called it, so fair play.
yeah. Firstly, I think the only they've made Reigns so dominant that the only person who can take it off him now is Cody Rhodes. That he's beaten everybody else and beaten them fairly decisively. He's beaten Lesnar, like the top guy in the company for the past
You know who he
10
hasn't
years.
beaten? Ace Steel.
He hasn't.
He hasn't gone against the Chomper and Chair
He has-
Thrower.
Did you like that they name dropped some of the people that he beat and they included on that list Daniel Bryan and John Cena, and there was somebody else that's in AEW currently. Daniel Bryan and somebody else. And I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, there
Maybe
seems to be. This is one of Triple H's things that he's opening up the wrestling world a wee bit more, because WWE for years was like, just
bubble.
this enclosed bubble where only WWE happens and nothing outside it. Like even when they brought Cody back, it's like his first time back in the ring in 6 years. Like, well, no.
No, I love when he brought AJ up. It's like, he was in Florida. He was a champion in Florida. It's like, what's in Florida?
Sunning himself.
It's in Florida. He spent some time in Tennessee. But yeah, let me run through some things on the card real quick to get us caught up to the main event, because I think that's what everybody wants to talk about. Damage Control did absolutely nothing for me whatsoever. I want to like it, but didn't hit. Like you said, that was probably match of the year between Sheamus and Gunther. That blew my mind. It's man, that is one of the most vicious, just straightforward brawling matches that I've seen in quite some time, to the point that I realized 10 or 15 minutes, however it was, into the match, probably about 10, that they hadn't really, maybe there was like one slam. I'm like, they're not even slamming each other. They're literally just beating the hell out of each other and seeing what happens. And that is such a nice change of pace from, listen, I will watch somebody do 150 flips and I'll do 150 flips of excitement in my belly, because that's what I love. That's what brings me into wrestling, is that crazy athleticism. But there's a time and a place where you have just a slugfest with a couple suplexes and you go, oh, this is different. That hurts. It helps that Sheamus is pure white, and as such, he's completely highlighted in red, because it was going to town across his pecs. But it also brings up an interesting thing, which was the reaction that Sheamus got was astronomical. And I don't know why the answer to this is Sheamus, but my fiance's favorite wrestler is Sheamus. And I always find it fun to watch wrestling with really casual fans. So we watched this match together in particular. And at the end of it, instead of being like, wow, that was a really good match, because like during it, she was super hyped, super into it, just like I was. But at the end, when Sheamus lost, it's like when you're a child on Christmas and Santa comes and you are so happy. It's that same type of elation that you get, or disappointment is what I'm trying to say. Like you get both ends of the spectrum. And it was that conversation after wasn't, wow, that was a really good match, but it stunk he lost. That was terrible.
Really?
I don't like, why would they do that? That was terrible.
Oh,
like, why wouldn't they just have him win? I don't get it. Like, and I remember what it's like to watch wrestling with that attitude, and
it's still real.
It's still real,
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I was watching AEW All Out. Was with that same type of mentality of, I don't understand why they did this. This would make more sense to me, or I would enjoy this more. Why didn't they do that?
But it's funny,
I get that.
That's what happened in the main event for a lot of people too.
Exactly, and that's why I wanted to kind of get to that. Thanks
Very
for
good point.
speeding me up.
Well,
but it was good that
before you get to the main event, Dave.
Don't worry, I'll talk lusciously about Liv Morgan. Don't worry about
it. The only other thing, because just while we're still on the subject of the Sheamus Walter match, the only other thing I'd have to say about it is the real winner of it was the IC title.
Yeah,
because
that looked properly legit now.
It looked like if two guys are going to go out and are willing to kill each other, that's a championship worth having. That's a title with prestige and with a real, a real reason for having it. It's not just a mid-card thing. It's pretty much like what the TNT title was originally, although it's lost it a wee bit lately. But this match I thought did wonders just for the IC title.
If they keep doing matches like that, it will be exactly what the IC belt was always supposed to be. Your next world champion or the second belt in the company. Because I mean, the Universal Championship, or the WWE Universal Championship, the 2 belts, that needs to go. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thing. They need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree, Martin. I think you're spot on that. One point I did want to mention, I was there was like a meme in one of the Facebook groups, and it was Sheamus, and I was actually on the bus going through Dublin where Sheamus used to live, and I just took a picture of like this big mural to Sheamus, and nobody believed it was real. It's 100% real. There's a massive mural to Sheamus where he used to live. Funny story though, a boss I had was Sheamus's old boss. So I told that story. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he's a cybersecurity engineer apparently by trade. So there you go, Sheamus. He gave up the glitz and glamour of cybersecurity to kick people.
I'm
How dare you?
hear that about the mural because I mean I don't know what's wrong with Irish media, but we're such a small country and we have some of the biggest wrestling stars in the world, and they just don't acknowledge it at all.
You see, like, there's a reason for
Becky
that.
Lynch headlined. Yeah, well, Becky Lynch headlined WrestleMania, and whether you think wrestling's silly or not, that's a local Limerick / Dublin girl done good, putting on, doing what she does in front of 70,000 people. And if you were watching or reading, Irish newspapers, listening to the radio that weekend, you wouldn't know what was happening.
No, it's very much it's very much the same thing that happens with the metal community. It's just because the Irish media has deemed it not worthy, it's not worthy. Like you watch RTE and this is not a job, but we're going to do you watch women's soccer and there's like 2 people in the crowd. They're like, oh, isn't it great? It's like there were 2 people there. Becky Lynch performing in front of 70,000 people and you just don't care.
Yeah.
It's just because you haven't deemed it that way. And if people have a problem with that, let us know. Because that's kind of how it is. It's very frustrating because we are such a small country that like we have some of the biggest stars in the world in WWE right now. And they just don't care. Like Dave, it's wild. Like in the US, wrestling has much more of, even actually in the UK, there's a much higher prestige of wrestling for some reason.
This is what's blowing my mind, because to hearing you guys' perspective on this is really fascinating, because as someone who lives in the US, when I'm watching the product, they made it out. Like all of Ireland was behind Becky Lynch and she was the superstar there, and thus, so what we're fed from the machine for the storyline is not what you're actually seeing on the ground, which is,
well, I mean,
it's disappointing to hear. I mean, it makes sense. I get it. Like, it's wrestling, obviously.
It's wrestling. That's the problem. Like
exaggerate.
Well, look with Conor McGregor, for example, right? For Conor McGregor would have more of a, would be more of a like mainstream acceptance, right, than wrestling. But yeah, no, I mean, like.
And trust me, what CM Punk did to the Bucks allegedly is nothing compared to what happened between Khabib and Conor McGregor. So I think anything's
Conor
possible.
McGregor and some old fella in a bar.
Oh yeah.
Did he fight a bus one time as well?
Same situation, kind of same people involved. But yeah, through a chair, through a bus, and a girl had to get stitches or something like that. Crazy.
There you go.
But anyway,
there's the match: Conor McGregor, CM Punk, and Ace Steel versus the Bus. The Bucks, Kenny Omega in a Kenneth from Hell match with TK and Dana White suspended above. This writes itself.
It does write itself. Look, you can even, I will book it. We can even put the kennel in the baggage underneath the bus. I think it's all perfect. But no, it was nice seeing Imperium back. They should get a shout out, I guess. Yeah, Liv Morgan won. Really, all I can say is I'm really glad you don't botch as much as you used to, Liv. Keep it going. But true story, though. There's a chair sitting next to me that has her face on it. It's from the last WWE pay-per-view before the pandemic. It's got other people's faces. Shayna Baszler is on there as well, and Daniel Bryan, hilariously, and Roman Reigns. But it's nice to have her next to me when I'm watching wrestling. I just feel extra connected to Liv. But yeah, I'm happy she wins. I mean, it's just handing the title back to Ronda at some point. So we'll see what they do with it.
She's keeping it warm. She's keeping it warm.
Yeah.
Actually, can I bring
like
up one?
you guys,
can I bring up one thing real quick? So, is Dominic Mysterio? Are they implying that Dominic Mysterio is actually Eddie Guerrero's son? Is that the implication? I mean,
they're hinting at it.
They're really going hard at it. Yeah, like that. Because when I walked away from this, I'm like, okay, so Rhea Ripley is banging Dominic, or and Dominic is actually a Guerrero. That's what I got from that.
And what I got for this is they made everybody from the UK region out like, yo, we're from the UK. It doesn't matter if we're good or bad. Root for us. But poor Finn Balor gets no respect, no acknowledgement of even where he's from during the show. I was like, come on, you're doing it for everybody else. Like,
yeah, but
why not?
Well, I mean, he's from Bray, and Bray's not a very colourful. Apologies to anyone who's listening from Bray, but it's a very grey place. I mean, it's Bray. Martin, you've been to Bray, haven't you?
I've been to Bray, yeah. But
yeah, it's nice, but I mean,
I'm currently living in East Belfast, so
yeah. So there you go. I mean, it's about an hour and a bit away.
So just so I understand, you don't like him because of where he grew up?
No, it's not a very sexy place. It's not like you're like from Las Vegas, Nevada. Or not even Dublin, Ireland. It's from very Wicklow.
In Ireland, though, is the equivalent of...
You have to understand that we don't care. You just say from Ireland, and we'll be happy.
I suppose that's a good point. I suppose that's a good point. But like when you hear...
Like, do you guys care when you hear like from like blank blank Texas? You're like, okay, he's from Texas. Well, you're not like, well, he's from Dallas or he's from San Antonio.
Funny and true story, right? Growing up, a lot of people were always surprised how I knew lots of state capitals, right? As like a kid. And the reason for that is, you know, I've never been to Boise, Idaho, but I know Tori Wilson's from there, right? And then it wasn't until years later when I was talking to Gary and we were doing the international desk. He was like, yeah, I knew all the state capitals because wrestlers were from them. So, I mean, yeah, it just sounds more exotic, I suppose, when you hear like Boise, Idaho rather than Bray, Wicklow.
That's why I failed geography, because I always just used to put parts unknown in.
Parts unknown? That's where Kane's from.
Death Valley.
Death Valley.
It's a real place, though.
It is a real place.
But I did like in that match, well, not the match, actually the end of it, didn't believe in Dominic, have never believed in Dominic. And then as he's walking up the entrance ramp, he turned around and the great camera work that they do in WWE caught him giving the smuggiest, snarkiest smirk that I have ever seen. And all of a sudden, I was like, I hate you. And I'm like, you win. It worked. You got over. I don't know how. You got over from somebody who doesn't want you to get over. And you gave me that look, and they followed through on Raw with keeping that same attitude, because clearly they saw it on camera as well. You make that work, and maybe Dominic will actually amount to a single star. It's not impossible. Like we talked about, I don't have anything to add about the Rollins and Riddle match. It was good. You asked the question, Dara, about whether the main event ending was disappointing. And my take on it at first was, well, I'm just going to enjoy this match and Drew's going to win, right? And that's how I was watching it the entire time.
That's how I watched it too.
That pinfall's, I took no pinfall seriously whatsoever. It didn't matter what they were doing. But then he lost. Yeah. And that's when I went, wrestling still gets me. Because I want to be surprised. I want to I want to see what makes the most sense for wrestling happen. Because Drew thought he was off the air, which is hilarious. Yeah. But Drew thought he was off the air.
Do we keep going? Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
But he made a comment right before that, which was, forget about this superficial, like, I'm from here, so I should win. That's not verbatim what he said, but that's what he was implying. Like, let's just enjoy that wrestling is back in the UK and thriving. And it was him acknowledging the only reason I'm being booked right now for this match and you guys are going crazy and just success is because of where it is. And I realize that and you realize that, but let's forget it and just have fun.
Fair.
And that made it really difficult for me because I went in thinking, well, Drew has to win. He has to win. It just makes sense. And then I was like, no, it doesn't. And that's coming from somebody that said throughout the entire pandemic, he deserves to win in front of a live crowd because he never got to experience that. He won and he lost without a fan in attendance. Yeah. And yet, when he had the best support he will ever get, I also realized that's the best support he will ever get. He will never be that over again for the rest of his career, title or not. So there's no point in giving it to him. And I know that is contrary to the popular opinion, and it kind of sucks to hear and it sucks to say, but I think it actually makes sense in terms of should he have won or should he have not? No. You gave us a surprise. You shocked us, and you're carrying a storyline further where we know Roman's going to drop the belt, but at this point, we don't know who or when. Because if you're not going to give it up to Drew and everything is aligned and all the constellations are in a straight line for the first time since Sagittarius was in bloom, it's going to mean something. So when that title's given up. And like we talked about with the IC title, they made it mean something. It's a silly that it's two belts. I'm sure they'll combine it into one, but man, whoever ends Roman's reign, that's going to be a person.
That was good. No, it's funny, right? Because I heard some people complaining, Triple H doing the same thing that Vince would do. And you're like, stop. Just, please stop. But I was laughing because I want to give a shout out to 2 pages on Facebook. One, AEW fan said what? And cringy wrestling stuff. Right, I really enjoy those 2 pages. That's where I'm getting all the memes that I'm subjecting my 2 co-hosts to on the regular, particularly when it pertains to CM Punk and his alleged biting friend.
Don't follow us on Twitter. Please don't, because you'll see great memes, and nobody wants to see that, so don't follow us.
Nobody wants to see the memes. But it was funny because I saw a comment that was clipped, and it was just like, Tyson Fury can punch a WWE star, but if I do it, it's assault. And someone's like, wrestling isn't real. It was amazing. And I was like, why would you think that? Why would you think
maybe he was just inspired by CM Punk? Or maybe CM Punk was inspired by...
Maybe, and that's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, that was posted a day before this actually was CM Punk happened. So, I mean, yeah, it was funny. I was like, well, for some people, wrestling still is real. And obviously because we're covering this week on week, Dave, yourself, myself, I'm covering this for, over 10 years or whatever at this point. And it's just like, yeah, wrestling can still get you, and I mean, this show was so unique. It was so different. It had a different crowd to it. WWE should do it more. They should really come over to the UK more.
Does this give you hope?
Well, they never come to Ireland because why would they?
I understand, and I do. Will. And by the way, love the fact that you guys aren't part of the UK. But
we haven't been for 100 years.
Since it's within, I know. I'm just saying, I'm not that.
Well, give or take 80 years.
My major is history.
Fair.
But my point is, does this give you hope that there's going to be more major WWE internationally broadcast shows within driving distance of you, which is not something you guys get very often?
Dave, you're aware there's water.
There's also ferries. I don't know if you were alive 100 years ago, Darren. But
right. I just wanted to know. I just wasn't sure if you're like driving distance, like there's water.
Listen. And what did Stephen Wright say? Everywhere is within walking distance if you have enough time. I'm just employing that same mentality.
Fair. No, to be fair, you actually can get you can get a bus from Dublin to London that goes through Wales, and it's through a ferry. So, no, I'm just giving you some guff. That's all.
But you didn't answer my question. So does this give you some excitement that you'll have? I
think so. Yeah.
In countries near you,
yeah, I think so. I mean, sorry, Martin, you can take this first. I'll go on after.
It makes sense for them to do because, like, you can tour the US and North America and that all you want, and you're eventually gonna burn towns out. But it doesn't matter what happens in Ireland or Britain. Like, any time we get a big show over here, it's gonna be massive. Like, it's going to be huge news locally. So you're going to guarantee a sellout stadium. You're going to guarantee like a white hot crowd.
These tickets were crazy expensive. These tickets were like nearly $400 each.
And every single one of them sold.
Yeah, like I know 2 people that went and they spent €400 each.
Oh, that's mania ticket level. That's
crazy money. Do
you know what front row was?
No, I have no idea. It had to be $1,500 probably, easy.
Yeah, because I know, I just out of curiosity, I looked at Mania, and I think they were like $3,000 to $5,000 for first row. And
that's what one night stand was. One night stand was like $4,000 for front row. Yeah.
Hammerstein Ballroom for the win, though.
I can't.
But it just makes business sense. I don't know why they wouldn't be over
Well,
this side of the Atlantic every other year.
Well, look, it makes way
show.
It makes way more because, like, yeah, like the UK for some reason is probably the second biggest market for wrestling, purely by a lot of the wrestling shows that you watch on YouTube. They're all
wait. It's not Saudi Arabia.
You don't say Saudi Arabia. You just name the city. You just say
you just
Jeddah.
say Jeddah.
Jeddah exists on its own.
I don't know what gets us against TOS. I don't know.
But yeah, no, I mean, like when you're watching lots of shows on YouTube and that, it's all lads from the UK. I mean, like it seems like on the internet, WWE and AEW are bigger in the UK than they are in the US in lots of ways. It's weird. So I mean, it makes more sense to do this than to do a random house show that nobody sees. Don't get me wrong, I like WWE house shows. They actually are quite fun. But this probably made them, one, a heck of a lot more money, made a lot more sense, and got a lot of people more enthused about the product because, one, it's under Triple H. So this is probably the first show that they've done outside of the US, Canada thing, under Triple H. But maybe people who didn't watch wrestling were like, oh, I'll go to this and get some cheap seats, because the cheap seats for the UK shows are always like £30 anyway, so they're not that bad. And I'm sure there were cheap seats for this as well. And I think, yeah, we are going to see more of these shows, and it makes a lot more sense to do it. Would he do it in Dublin? No, which sucks. But probably London, probably Manchester, probably Glasgow, which is a really weird way to pronounce Glasgow, but that's how they always pronounce Glasgow for some reason. But yeah, Edinburgh. Oh man, but yeah, I think we'll see more of these. Absolutely. Probably next year, maybe once a year. They should do one once a year. But I suppose a better question, Dave. Will it be a SummerSlam? No. Will it be a WrestleMania? No. But
not a WrestleMania, but I'll tell you what.
They could do a Survivor Series, legitimately.
They could.
Yeah.
Not a Rumble, because you need to fly too many people over that are surprises. But like a SummerSlam, I could actually see being a yes, because I can't tell you how nice it was that it was a Saturday. So US time for me. For it to be a Saturday afternoon at 1:00, and I could be like, you know what? There's a really major wrestling pay-per-view on. Let me check it out. This isn't going to make me have to stay up real late at night or have to watch it on replay the next day.
Look at Dave complaining, Martin. Look at Dave complaining. Oh, I have to stay up to 8:00. Oh my God. We have to stay up till it starts at 1 and finishes at 4 in the morning for us.
I was sitting up at 6 a.m. watching CM Punk bury the company I love.
No sympathy. Dave, that game will not work with us, my friend. No way. It will not work. We spent our entire people are like, Dara, why are you able to stay up so late? I'm like, because I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. There is no time for me. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I just stay up late for AEW though.
Oh no, Martin.
I have an early bedtime now, guys. Have a kid, you'll understand.
Still, no sympathy. Since the age of 8, actually younger, 1 a.m. has been when wrestling is on. So it is nice to watch a show that's on at like a human time, you know, like
that's when ECW used to air.
Really?
Real late. It was like either 11 or 1. Well, yeah, the censors couldn't. You had to be careful with that.
It used to be on after Raw, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on super late, and Raw ended here at like 11:15.
11:15,
so,
yeah.
But one thing before we like kind of close this out, we were talking about the fact that, you know, who's really left for Roman. Let's forget that. Who makes sense?
I agree with Martin. I think the only one who makes sense is Cody. He's the only one that's protected enough to beat him. Genuinely.
Do you honestly think that fans care enough about Cody Rhodes?
There's nobody else.
Yeah.
They don't have anyone else.
I mean, well, they're lining up Braun Strowman next. I don't think he'll win it.
That's true.
But they're lining
Karrion
up
Kross as well. Apparently, they're lining up for a massive push. They've actually they've written him out. Apparently, he never debuted. That wasn't really him. So now they're like, he's back.
I think they're lining those guys up because he can't wrestle nobody between now and next April. You know?
Well, he's not even wrestling somebody on the next pay-per-view. He's a full-time talent, and that's what we weren't supposed to get with Brock, and it's just very confusing.
Yeah, to me, it just looks like it's been kept for Cody. It makes a lot of sense. He's the only one he hasn't faced, let alone that he hasn't beaten. And Cody's talking about, the legacy of his dad, the legacy of that old title, and that problem you were talking about, Dara, about having these two belts.
Yeah.
Cody can solve that by coming in and winning it and unveiling, like whatever the new unified
title
WWE title is.
What they should do is rock up to Kenny Omega and be like, "Hey man, how's that bite doing? Don't worry. Here's a boatload of money. Come on over." That's what
I'm going to pitch you something crazy. Seth Rollins turns face because he's been complaining constantly about WWE on Twitter, which we all know isn't work because all their tweets have to be pre-approved. The fans sing along with his entrance to No Stop, whether they're in the UK or the US. It doesn't matter. They're former.
Partly though, just because that song was specifically made to sing along to, like you could have.
As they should be. As they should be. But yeah, I mean, could you even hum Roman Reigns' theme right now? Because I can't. It's terrible. It's abysmal. But have Seth Rollins have him form his own Shield, bring some guys up from NXT 2.0 to go against the Usos and Zayn and whoever. Bring Kevin Owens in to go against Zayn to be his factor and let that kind of turn it into a decade-long storyline of Seth finally overcoming Roman and realizing his betrayal led to all of this, and that Roman's left that, but Seth still has it in him. And I don't know. I think that's the only person on the roster I point to as this would make logical sense. I mean, everything else is great. It'd be cool if Cody came in for the pop, but for long-time storytelling, I don't know. I don't know. Is that just me, or did you see where I'm going with that?
I have one better.
Okay.
Right. So you do that, and he gets beaten. Lights go off. Green lights hit. Triple H walks out.
Oh my God.
Wins the belt.
And then hands it to AJ Styles. I'm with you. Wait. So
well, here's the thing. Actually, hold on. In all seriousness, right? The Fiend. Why not the Fiend?
Well, because he's a terrible wrestler. Oh, this is Roman.
He is a terrible wrestler, but remember, he
has never stopped him before.
He has never stopped him before. He can just do all the spooky stuff, and that's it. They can have a fun house match, and that way. No, I'm deadly serious. I'm not doing a bit. They could have a fun house match.
It could happen.
And that way, Roman Reigns doesn't get. It's like the same with John Cena, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if he goes back and they can do the whole story, and you can bring in Seth Rollins, you can bring in all the people he's betrayed and do it that way. If they really want to keep him strong, they can do that.
So like the ghost of Reigns' past.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes all the ghosts together to defeat him.
Yeah, and then you have Bray Wyatt come back and that's his return. It's like nobody else can beat me.
For those of you that are listening to this and like, why are they talking stupid ideas? We booked a courtroom earlier, guys. Deal with it. Did you believe at all in the younger Uso being a viable threat, or you're like, wow, he looks too young to go yet?
Yeah,
and he's I've seen him in the ring, and I'm not trying to put him down in any way. I'm just saying from a TV standpoint.
Yeah, no, it was the weakest one, but the weakest part of the whole match was Tyson Fury. I mean, yeah, he's legitimately undefeated, but I'm also like, I just hate when you have people like this showing up. Even the Attitude Era, when we're watching shows or whatever, and you see
Mike Tyson?
No, not Mike Tyson, the English guy. I'm the Juggernaut. You know what? That guy.
Oh, Vinny Jones.
Vinny Jones. Tyson Fury gives me Vinny Jones vibes, and I'm like, I hate this. I really hate this.
It didn't bother.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it didn't bother me when he knocked out Austin. I thought that was funny. Did I need him later in the match? No, I definitely didn't.
What about you, Martin? Were you annoyed by that? Because that's the only part of the match that really pulled me out.
It doesn't bother me when people from a legitimate fighting background can get in and knock out a wrestler or go toe to toe with a wrestler. What I absolutely hate is when they bring a goddamn actor or a singer or Jake friggin' Paul or some of them in.
They need more Fred Durst.
and they go toe to toe with a wrestler or knock out a wrestler, I'm like, nah, lads, come on, you're devaluing the whole.
I actually think Logan Paul's really good.
Oh, Logan Paul is a terrible.
Chris Armel actually, he became a legitimate wrestler after his storyline with Stardust.
Yeah.
Apparently he's really good, which is
You mean
weird.
Steven?
Yeah.
And that's great.
Stephen Amell.
But
Stephen Amell.
At the time, whenever they're coming in as like a singer or as an actor, and then they, knock out a wrestler. Like, I didn't like Mickey Rourke,
I didn't like that either.
Chris Jericho.
Well, he cost himself an Oscar over that because he gave away that they were supposed to have a WrestleMania match, and he didn't win an Oscar because that leaked. WWE was furious because they wanted him to show up with an Oscar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's true, yeah.
He deserved an Oscar for that. He was brilliant.
He was supposed to get one.
There's a biopic coming out about Ric Flair soon, I saw too, so that'll be interesting.
Oh my God, can you imagine that?
I know.
I tell you one thing, lads, I'm looking forward now to Dark Side of the Ring in about 5 years, where it's like most Ric Flair, the Vince McMahon series and the CM Punk series. It's gonna be, we're gonna have our work cut out for us. We really are.
Can I ask a question, just kind of in summary of what we were talking about at the beginning, because I'm curious about this, and I'll answer last. Did what happened with CM Punk at AEW and the scrum and the aftermath, real or not, change what you think about CM Punk in any way, shape, or form? Martin,
you first.
Not yet. Like I said, when the scrum happened, I was still convinced it was a work. Obviously, as more and more of the stuff about the backstage fight has come out, that's concerning. If they can all sort of take a step back and calm down and come back and put on the dream matches that people want to see and make the big money out of like an awesome feud with like a real life background to it that people want to see, then yeah, it won't change my opinion of him. I'll still think he's fantastic. If the whole thing falls apart and he takes his ball and goes home and it damages AEW and it damages wrestling as a whole because of it, and we start to see maybe even the likes of the Elite get wobbly, I would really reevaluate my opinion of him then. So it just depends what happens over the coming months.
Fair. I'm a little bit further along than you, Martin, with that. That's how I saw CM Punk initially, when he left WWE. And then I read his terrible Hulk comic. And then I saw his terrible fights. Then I saw his terrible movies. And yeah, I mean, I was still like, oh, grand. And then he came back to WWE for the show and I watched it. And I was like, oh, great, Punk's back. And then he disappears and goes off to AEW for some reason and becomes Walmart greeter Phil. And we're like, okay, he's having some good matches. And then he does this. And it's like that meme, from The Simpsons.
It's still good.
No, it's like, Seymour, he's like, maybe I'm the problem. It's like, no, it's AEW who's wrong. It's just like, I can't believe there's just not that awareness where it's like everywhere you go, you cause problems. You have to sort yourself out. And I think if Punk has that awareness where he's like, I need to stop doing this. I need to actually be a professional here, because apparently he wanted to be a locker room leader and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, fair enough, he was a head trainer in Ring of Honor, and it just seems like he's like the most self-destructive person ever. It's like we heard about the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior and that all pales in comparison to this guy. This guy, like, I've been watching wrestling since I was 6, 7, 8. I don't remember a time I didn't watch wrestling, I'll be honest with you. All right, even when I took a break from wrestling, I was still watching wrestling. I've never seen somebody do that. I've never seen someone bury their entire company for no reason. And he was eating muffins during it, which was the best part. But I'm like, what is wrong with you? So yeah, Punk controlled was in the WWE. And I've often said here, Martin, on this show, that he needed something to rally against. He needed to be the anti-authority figure. So, this would fit in. This is a great opportunity for him to do that again. However, he was sitting there with Tony Khan, the authority figure. So placating Punk means throwing everyone else under the bus, which is what Triple H said about 10 years ago, or what, 7 years ago? So, yeah, it has coloured my opinion of him. I mean, Yeah, it's sad to see him go, but also I'm like, you're a liability. He's the Hulk Hogan. He's the Hulk Hogan to the WCW of AEW. You know, that's how he is now. He's nuclear. And having him there, nothing good can come from it. Because even though he is a draw, and he has great matches, and he's probably one once in a generation talent, he injures himself all the time in every match he does because he wrestles like there's no tomorrow, which I mean is admirable. But doing what he's doing is no good. And then having a mate who just decides to allegedly buy people is also very weird. That's such a weird thing. I can't comprehend that. But yeah, no, it definitely has coloured my opinion on him because I thought this was over. He had everything. He was the world champion and he was still upset. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're getting paid millions of dollars. You're the world champion. They built the company around you and you're still upset over a promo. Come on. That's childish. Childish.
Most people didn't even pick up on that was...
No, nobody knew what he was talking about. It was sick. But no, it has coloured my opinion of him. And it's unfortunate because I was one of the biggest CM Punk fans going. But, I mean, when you start realising that, no, he's just like that. That's not a character. That's bad. Dave?
Yeah, it's you said what CM Punk needs. What CM Punk needs is a really deep psychedelic trip at this point because I don't know what else.
That's half the problem, right?
Well,
he doesn't need to take. Maybe those muffins aren't strong enough. Somebody should have put something in the muffins.
Yeah, let's put some mushrooms in the muffins. Is what I'm saying. Because what he really needs at this point, and I'm not a rocket scientist, so how would I know about mental health? But it would be nice if he could kind of get that forced perspective of thyself that those sort of experiences supposedly give you. Because I don't know what else is going to change his attitude. Like reports coming out, supposedly, if they're to be true, are like, no, he'll be welcome back as long as he can like hopefully change what his attitude is going forward. Well, that's not going to happen if he doesn't take a really deep look at what he's doing and how that's impacting the people around him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the disconnect is he's, as much as I want to tune in every time I see CM Punk and will, and as much as CM Punk does get those $1 million houses, which, we were just talking about Cardiff, we can laugh at the face of $1 million house. None of that matters if nobody in the locker room wants to wrestle you because you're not a good person. No, I don't want to say not a good person. Not a person that other people necessarily want to be around, or you're forcing them to pick sides like it's politics. Like you either like me or you can't work with me. Well, that's not going to happen in a company.
One of the
perspective.
One of the saddest parts about CM Punk in general, right? So obviously, we do a show called Nerd to Know Basis, right? I'm friends with a lot of comic book proprietors and artists and all that kind of stuff, right? So I know and Punk is a big comic book guy, so I actually know a comic book shop that he goes to, and I know the owners. And apparently Punk is like one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. He genuinely is. And it's so weird because, I mean, you do get that, and from reports you hear that he is a super nice guy, a great friend, but then when he takes that turn, that's it.
It's why it's a cult.
Yeah,
it's not just a song, man. Like,
cuts you off completely.
Liking Punk is a cult. And I used to be in that cult.
Same.
And this media scrum has pushed me out of it. And I find myself in this weird, I mean, you guys have heard me say everything on this podcast too. I will watch no matter what when he's on to. He really needs to look inside himself and figure out what's going on. And I think that is the wrestling fan in me just being conflicted about what this version of CM Punk really is. And do I want it, or am I just remembering how awesome the supposed best in the world was back in 2011? And I think that 11 years later, that's somehow still true.
Yeah. But what rocked me again, and Martin, you've pulled me up on this, even in the drunk cast. You pulled me up on this, quite profoundly. When I saw him in MMA, my illusion of Punk as the shooter mixed martial artist,
agreed,
completely shattered. Now, the guy who walked out wearing a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu hoodie, the guy who I went and did Jiu-Jitsu because he was doing it, completely shattered. Because you're like, whoa, you're terrible. Holy hell, you can't do anything. I've doing martial arts since I'm like, 15? And I'm just like, whoa, you can't throw a kick that's decent. These kind of things, right? And that really started the shatter. And so when he came back to AEW, I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. But this has completely just turn me off Punk. Like, if I never saw him wrestle again in AEW or anywhere, I'd be like, all right, maybe if he came back to WWE, for one last run, I would probably get behind it, and then a Hall of Fame, and then that'd be it. But I mean, he is nuclear. Like, you touch him at your own risk, because like he single-handedly nearly killed AEW in a day. That's amazing. I mean, I'm not hyping this up. Like, what he did will go down in the annals of history. Like, this is on the same level as the Finger Poke of Doom, Bash at the Beach 2000. Stuff we cover on this show that has gone down as the worst moments in wrestling. This is up there. This is like on that Mount Rushmore of terrible moments. Punk is there. He's there. He's there with his muffins, And it's sad. It really is, because it shouldn't have been that way. Sorry, Mark.
One thing I find frustrating about him is he'll say things like, "Oh, I'm a grumpy old man. Oh, I'm an asshole. I'm tough to be around." It's frustrating, because it's like acknowledging your faults doesn't absolve you of them. Like, you have to, right? That's great. You have to then do something about it, or at least be aware of it in these heated moments. Like, you can't just.
I think the most petty thing about it was the fact that, and look, a lot of this probably does fall on TK as well. When Punk came out and cut that promo on Hangman when he wasn't there, he should have been like, "Listen, you can't do that. What are you doing? Don't do that." But the fact he didn't do that, he kind of gave him the okay to build this thing. And if he was, as the article up on the screen says now, if he was planning this for probably months, I mean, that's someone who, like, wrestling's all about trust. It's one of the reasons why I never went into wrestling, because I couldn't let someone hit me. I mean, no, you're not going to hit me. If you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you back, right? So fair play to you, Martin, for being a wrestler, but I could never do that. Wrestling is trust. How can you trust Punk? You can't.
Yeah.
Goes into business for himself, How can
has he ever done anything in the ring, though, that would make you not trust being in the ring with him? I can't.
Well, here's the thing.
Think of anything.
I can't think of anything either. But he was probably controlled by the WWE. If he went into the ring now and had a match with Hangman or the Bucks, like, you wouldn't know, right? Like,
what do you think? New Jack's spirit inhabited him? Like, what?
Well, again, going back to Sean and Brett, like, before the screw job and all, Brett went to Sean and he said, "Look, whatever differences we have, whatever's going on between us, I just want you to know you are always safe in the ring with me." So like there's two guys who had, like you say, nuclear heat between each other, but who could do business because it's what the fans wanted, it's where the money was, and who also knew that there's a fundamental thing at the core of wrestling where the other guy who's lifting you and dropping you on your head, you have to trust them.
Exactly. And I mean, like, the thing about it is, we might joke him, we will joke a lot about, Ace Steel. For something to escalate to that extent, I don't know. I mean, this is a workplace. It's a business. I mean, imagine going into your job and just biting your coworker. "Oh, he said something about me." What? What are you doing? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking, such and stuff stole my lunch.
But it was very pro wrestling that he threw a chair.
It was, to be fair, and apparently it was like an open chair, which is not what you do. But again,
Sabu.
Well, there you go. I mean, Sabu was doing it safely, which is saying a lot, because But look, guys, we will leave it there. Again, this has been a special extended edition of the Rewind. So thank you so much for everyone who was in the chat, who's watching live, who's listening on the radio, listening on True Penny Channel or whatever. If you guys want to get involved, you can. thewrestlingrewindshow.com gives you to our link tree. All the ways to reach us are there, or if you want to go to nerdtoknowmedia, you can reach us there as well. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of good stuff as well. We will be back. Our 3-man booth. Dave's going to be joining us hopefully every 3 weeks, you said, Dave?
That's the
ish. So we're getting our phone system up again. So
full moon.
We will be back, and at least our 3-man booth is a bit more coherent than the WCW 3-man booth where Mark Baden is lusting after women, which is you missed all that, Dave. It's still horrendous.
Dude, I lived all that. I didn't miss all that.
Oh god, it's
switching between lusting over them and fantasizing about how he wants to kill every woman in the world.
it's something else. It really is. And guys, if you don't know what we're listening to, go back and check out our WCW run, which we just finished. It was a phenomenal time. Coming up, we're going to be doing the Phenom run that's on the network, and then we're going to be going to WWE in 2000, Dave, which you have never seen.
Oh no!
And it's
not the invasion. I don't want to watch the invasion.
The invasion is 2001. I'm talking about 2000, the best year of wrestling.
No, I don't want to watch Triple H. I don't want to.
You will want to watch Triple H versus
Cactus
Jack in the best match ever.
By
the way, Dara's that
Royal Rumble's amazing.
It is amazing. It's phenomenal.
Dara's the happiest person in the world that Vince McMahon retired.
Oh,
because it's been like lifelong dream to watch Triple H promotion. So, good lord, I don't know what I'm in store for.
No, for anyone who's probably jumping at joy because we have the Royal Rumble coming up. I think that's our next big pay per view we're going to do, Martin, isn't it? On the timeline.
Yeah, that'll be the kickoff of WWF 2000. It was still F in 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2002 I think is when they got the F out as the campaign. I remember them all wearing that terrible shirt that I still kind of want actually. So if someone has one, let me know.
Yeah, that's when they got the F out. There's that pure business decision that they did entirely voluntarily.
I love the way it was like a random UK charity that's like, hey, we're the WWF, But yeah, so
I was a huge wrestling fan at the time. And for years, like a huge WWF fan at the time, and for years afterwards, I had like a thing against pandas over that.
Every time the ad came on, you just clenched up and you're like, oh.
Glad you're bloody going extinct, you Chinese bamboo-eating prick.
Oh man, that's amazing. I love it. But yeah, no, so that's our next big show that we're going to be doing. And what we will do is for the Phenom corporate ministry thing, we'll put up a link to where it is. It's on the network, and we'll go through what's there so you guys can follow along. If you want to actually suggest something to us, we're upgrading the Patreon, so we will kind of do some Patreon shows. But for the time being, you can email us nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com or the Wrestling Rewind show@gmail.com, or just tweet us at RWV. That's you just tweet me. I usually talk nonsense on Twitter. To be fair, a lot of Twitter at the moment is me just reposting CM Punk memes. So that's all it is, because it's hilarious. But you can at me there as well. There's something you want to watch. TNA we're going to be doing as well. I'm super excited for TNA shows, purely because they're terrible, but they're also great. So Dave, you probably remember them because you were covering them at the same time as I was. Martin, you're in for a treat, sir. You're really
I bought those Wednesday night pay-per-views.
Oh my god. Oh man, Martin, you've no idea what you're in for, sir. It's a good time.
I'm very excited.
It's a good time. But yeah, guys, again, that's what we have coming up. So again, thank you to everyone who listened tonight. Dave, is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Nope.
Okay, Martin,
free yourselves from Twitter. Just get off it, shut it down, let it collapse.
Daddy Elon should have bought it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and tied it to one of his fucking rockets and sent it to the moon.
I think the problem with Twitter is everyone went from Tumblr to Twitter. And that's the problem. I think once those servers were nuked, they all just migrated over. So maybe that's the problem. But I do maintain that the minute Twitter discovers wrestling, it's over. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully Twitter goes extinct before they discover the Attitude Era, because then it's all over. We have to close shop, guys. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody who joined us this week. We'll be back next week, or the week after. Actually, we'll be back the week after here on the Wrestling Rewind. Talk to you there, guys. Goodbye.